waiting for. Hello and welcome back to another live MAP therapy group or anybody support therapy group. Today I'm going to go through, and I know we're early because it's meant to be on a Wednesday, third Wednesday of every month, but we're going away for our little summer, a little breakaway to a town, so we're doing it a bit early because I'm really busy all week. So I'm going to go through, which I haven't yet, and sort of do a back, I need to remember to look up here, a back history of what we've done so far. So this is just sort of a catch up and a look at our statement of intent. So this is the minor attraction group. So this is for people who are living with non-offending and wanting to be in well-being of their condition, which is now being proven as a inborn condition in the first 3 weeks of gestation, similar to your sexuality and gender spectrum. So they haven't done enough research on why that happens, but i.e. the conditions of the womb, or vitamins too much or too little, or stress or trauma, all sorts of things can happen that can change the environment that a baby is being made in the womb, and it can affect neuroscience and all sorts of physiological things. So we're going to talk about what the statement of intent is for this therapy group, which is the Human Being First Non-Offending Child-Filial Support Group. I've got a fly going around my room. Also, I'll just quickly tell you about my little hat. It's because I'm dyeing my hair ready for going away, so it's all lovely underneath. So that explains that. It's a turban, not a hat. Yes, it is. It is a turban. Thank you. Hello and welcome. Love you too. So I'm going to go through quickly the statement of intent. Really, it's just saying what we're all turning up with, which we all know. Thank you. I make a lovely nursery teacher, someone says. Well, I've got a lot of neuroscience story times where I read a storybook, or I do some regression work for people that have had trauma or have dysregulation in their body or have autism and have learned the reflex of holding in, freezing, the reptilian reflex. So it can help regulate your nervous system if you want to visit that. They're the neuroscience story times on my YouTube channel. I'll put a link on the end of this thing if you want to go. So the statement of intent says, I come knowing that child molestation is wrong and something I cannot ever attempt online, in person, or as grooming with intent. So this is to separate minor attraction from child sexual offence, and these are two totally different sets of people, and we are looking after the people that want to live with it better, want to make a community where they can hold each other in culpable safety and love and care for what it is to live with this condition, something that you haven't asked for, something that you didn't want, and that's something that's really stigmatized and discriminated against, that's really not given the help and the care that any other condition on the planet would be given. So we want to try and bridge some of those gaps, and I'm going to be giving you a whole load of information on how other organizations are helping with that. So we know child molestation is wrong. We don't want to do it. We agree that children can't consent and that it's not healthy for them. And even when it's what would be called or miscalled a pleasurable experience because a child has received an orgasm in the molestation. That's just their body responding to touch, and it can create some most horrific psychological conflict later on in life, and blocks towards sexuality, not sexuality, their own libido, their ability to have sex, their fantasy, all of those things, and have orgasm later on. So on top of that, flooding a child's body with an orgasm, it's like giving them heroin. You know, how can we expect a child, until they're ready and their hormones are at that point where they're visiting it themselves, why would we put a child's body through that level of overwhelming hormones? That's a lot of serotonin and yummy stuff that's going through the body that creates a more type scenario. And any other child that hasn't been groomed in that way will not understand why this kid is being so sexual, and that's because they have been created a desire that they can't look after, they can't be safe with, and we shouldn't be helping it along its way in any way, shape or form. They should be gradually blossoming in their own privacy of their own body, and hopefully talking to safe adults that give them the space and the privacy to, and the education on how to keep safe in that, and consent and all those things, help them with how to be vocal in what their needs are and how to put down their boundaries and things like that. But that's when they get to that stage, and never with an adult, because the power imbalance is just so, you cannot get over the power imbalance. No one is ever able to be equal in that setting. It's like someone who you work for. That setting doesn't work because you are an underling, and then your job is in their hands, and you have to be different at work and navigate their mood and their difference and whatever it amounts to. And it's the same thing with children. You are a guardian, and to misrepresent that guardianship into a sexual nature to fulfill your adult need when a child doesn't have that need at that point is really selfish. So we as a group don't agree with that. No one in our group, the NOMAPs, non-offending, no contact, minor attracted persons who believe in the safety of children vehemently and hold it very precious. So that's our group, and that's the ones that we want to attend. But also, if you're attending with some kind of pro-contact ideal, come along if you're on the fence, because we'd love you to be on this side. The more we can get this side of the fence, the better, because we want to allow everyone to have some safety and some belonging in a place where they don't have to ruin their lives. Because up until now, there has only been one area where you can talk about this condition and this ability to deal with it, whereas now things are coming up that say there are ways to deal with it, and we can help you stay this side of the fence. So the next statement is, I wish to be part of a safe and empathic group that respects each other as equal human beings and will prevent myself from doing anything unhelpful to that common goal. So we don't want trolls here. We want a safe environment where everyone is kept safe and they're given equal respect for being brave enough to turn up to what I can't imagine a worse condition to live with in society's current state of empathy towards it. It's an isolation, immediate. And the children, and they are children that become aware of it, they turn 12, 13, 14, and they realize that they're leaving their sexual attraction behind. And then they realize, oh, what that means. So we have to be really tender and caring towards those children and how they come to terms with how to look after this condition and make it safe and communicate it without judgment and without projection, because they are not offenders, they are not something waiting to happen, but in an echo chamber of isolation, and then the visit to what was the only place, which was the dark web, the dark corner, to find answers. That was a slippery slope to undoing, but now we want to create a safe space that says, you don't have to go there, you can stay here, and we can give you things that can help, and hopefully we can fight for rights for things that can help, so that you have actual well-being tools that can help you live with a condition, like counselling that is confidential, strictly confidential. Once you state that you are non-offending, you don't want to offend, you don't offend online, and you just want to live this condition and work with your whole self as a whole, which includes this, that that should be enough, unless something shows as a flag, and the flags are that the person feels at risk, and that they are in easy contact with children. And even then, there is a step-by-step process. It's not just a doxing and chuck them to the police. This is young adults and children. A third of offences happen by children and adolescents. So we really have to change our viewpoint on these things, because then they come early adults, late adults, middle-aged and elderly people that don't have the rights to care. And I feel that of all the conditions we want care for, it's this one, because the devastation of not caring for it creates so many victims, including the person living with it, because most often they would commit suicide, and then less often they would commit offence online, and then offence physically on children. But most offences towards children happen, 70% roughly, happen by heterosexual males who are in conflict of self, and they lash out. And they could have lashed out in lots of other ways, but this was the way that was available to them. It was just circumstantial, as awful as that is. But really, that just shows that men in general need to be brought up as women are, that says emotions are allowed to be talked about, and they're allowed to be taken somewhere, and we're allowed to look after them. And if you take them somewhere confidential, it really helps, because it lets you unpack your entire spectrum of yourself. You're not one thing, you're lots of things. You're in a body that changes. You have lots of roles that are either in conflict or authentic. And the human body has only so much energy in one day. So if you have lots of roles that you're having to visit, then you are getting less and less able to fulfill them. So if you're not living in a person-centered environment, then you're not getting that for yourself or others. So the third statement of intent is, as a person-centered counsellor, I work from core conditions of empathy, unconditional kindness, and congruence, which is an authentic honouring. I expect all members to treat each other increasingly with respect. So that is touching on the basis that if you're turning up to be brave enough to represent non-offending minor attracted persons in a group therapy way, that either brings your struggle to be unpacked so others can understand it better, or we can create a group scenario where we're all giving help and tips and what we found out, and how everyone brings their own special and their own interest and their own knowledge and education. So everyone bring in, and the more the merry, because the more knowledge we have, the more we can make from it. So I want everyone to respect each other turning up. There is a lot of people turn up who are friends and parents and family of non-offending minor attracted people who have been brave enough to come out with their friends and family, because they know themselves, I'm not ever going to offend, and I just want to be myself as this person that has an emotional attraction to children, and my sexual attraction is based in emotions, so I am aroused by that, and I am not ever going to do anything about it, but I want to be able to look after it and be my real self, and be myself around you. And so we have a therapy bubble for people who want to solicit help from family or friends, and it just explains a few really basic things of misconceptions and reducing stigma, and gives them an opening to say, if you're receiving this, someone really vulnerable wants your care, and they're giving their trust in you as a human being. So check that out if you want to recommend it to anyone, or give it to anyone to bridge the gap of having a conversation with them. My intentions are to provide a safe, facilitated environment to unpack, make connections, gain support, have resources for personal development and therapeutic process, self-governance in life, skills for well-being and safety, boundaries and communication for belonging, learning from each other and sharing our knowledge for difference. So breaking that down, so we want it to be safe. In my contracting, which I now put, direct you all to go and watch some other time or before you tune in, so it doesn't take up the session time. And it states what the contract is and how to keep safe. Online, you are your own safety, and also there's nothing illegal going on here. This is security and safety for those wanting to live with well-being in this condition. So we're inviting that, and I have a governing body, and it's all above board and qualified. So just try to keep yourself safe and watch the statement of intent for contracting in the therapy group, or one-to-one Skyping if you want to do that. And also you can do that anonymously, or as a parent or a friend of a NOMAP, you can have a session that helps you come to terms. I'm all up for that. Because the more they have support and belonging and people that care for the true person they are, not this monster condition on them, which actually is a projection and stigma, because most minor attracted people don't offend online or physically, because they love children too much. They couldn't bear to hurt a child, and their own need would never override the care for a child. They would always deal with that in some way. So this is an environment to unpack, so you can get in touch with me, send me an email, which I will always keep confidential, that you can tell me your backstory and your comorbid conditions and what you are as a person, and what your body has to live with, and how you live with your minor attraction and things you struggle with and would like some help with, and any hints and tips for the program or the therapy group, or anything that you would like me to go over in some way. Just get in touch. We have Autonomycounselling@outlook.com. I'll put it at the end of the thing. You can come on Twitter. I'm live on Twitter, so I'm looking at all the different cameras. Or send a message on the comments underneath, or DM me on Twitter. We're also on Facebook, or Projectsnowball, Autonomy Council, or Faye Brown. You can get a look at all sorts. We want to make connections, so we want to make more and more of a community and a belonging and a beacon that says we are here and we are open and we are happy for people to come and say, I'm going to live with this condition now, and I'm going to create some safety around it, and at some point I'm going to be able to be in a world that acknowledges it and acknowledges rights that would help in living with it, rather than waiting at the bottom of the slide for all sorts of victims. And that's not just children, these are adolescents killing themselves because they don't want to live with this condition in isolation and hatred of themselves. And really, they don't have to hate themselves. This is a condition, and no one else is projected to hate themselves with a condition that was inborn. So we want to reduce that stigma. Gain support. So we're here for supporting. We have a load of therapy bubbles. We're up to like 100 different individual YouTube videos or recordings with oh god, hours and hours of content, and a lot of them are 20, 15, 10, 30-minute long, that are easy. You can digest them quickly, and you can learn something. You can get some paper down, and you can write some notes about what comes up during what I'm saying, and then you can know something about self. And you might want to send something that says, I'd like you to unpack this, I'm struggling with this, now I've watched that, I know that this is what I would like to understand, and then we can do it like that. So this is a support group. And then if I don't know, I can put it out there and say, look, has anyone else got skill around living with this specific part of minor attraction? We want resources for personal development and therapeutic process. So again, the therapy bubbles, I've got a lot of, I'm going to start doing blog. My website is all but finished, and we kind of had to go through a scrapping process and a restart, because what I was given by a wonderful set of people that did it all for free just was unusable, because they gave me a lovely Faye show YouTube, not YouTube, website, but it wasn't Project Snowball. And I gave them so much stuff that I don't know why they just put that bit on, but because it was just, you could just put the odd little, as a visual background to what we are and things like that, but it just, something in the communication didn't go well. But we have started again with our Project Snowball web design manager in the charity, who has made us an amazing one. So it'll all be there, and we'll have blog posts there that will have links to articles, to research, to studies, to techniques, to all sorts of things that you can do to help with living with it and developing. Self-governance, that's about ownership. So that's about you becoming better and better at living with yourself, which includes minor attraction. And when it's in isolation, it becomes bigger and bigger and scarier and scarier, especially when you're just met with this tidal wave of hate. But when it's met in a group of people that can live with it and have lived with it and been celibate their whole life, or have been able to be, they have, I can't think of the word, but they're not just attracted to children, they have attraction to adults as well, and they can live with that openness there and play with that adult relationship that sort of cares for it in some way. There's lots of ways to live with it, and once they meet those people, there isn't that desperation and I'm this monster waiting to happen. I am me, and I wouldn't ever do that, so why am I keep waking up, judging myself as if I'm this person that everyone hates, when actually that's not who I am. So it gives you that autonomy, that ownership of like, no, I know who I am. You might know some kind of headline in the newspaper, but I want to separate that out, and this is me, and this is what mine looks like, and it's not fair to project all that upon me. And we want the safety and well-being for that. We want boundaries and communication for belonging, so everyone can communicate safely, so we're not sanitizing what it is to live with minor attraction, and we don't want you to be expressionless. We don't want you to be a held in non-able group that can't express and get satisfaction out of group discussion. But we want it to be safe for everyone, so that the friends and family, the parents who are joining in to try and understand better aren't getting freaked out at the first notion, because we're not understanding from where they're walking from inwards towards empathy. And it's a psychological journey. It starts when they're starting with entitled hate. We're allowed to hate you. In fact, it's encouraged. You're the only group that we just want to hang all the time, and even if you haven't yet, we'll hang you anyway because you're just a disaster waiting to happen, when actually that's so unfair and unfactual and really dishonouring of a lot of people's very hard work. And so we want it to be that we have the boundaries in the communication that says this is who we are, and we're not pretending to be anything else. We're trying to live better with what we have and get better with it so that we can share it with others, because a community keeps every individual safe, because there is culpability, there is camaraderie, there's companionship, there is understanding. So we want everyone to be really compassionate about the people visiting that, in order to understand, and that spectrum of getting to empathy. I understand what it is to be in your shoes from where you are. We have to go through a spectrum of things which sort of begins with pity, which is a hard one to swallow down, and we don't really have to swallow it down. We just have to accept that that's the best they can do in this moment right now, and it's a step forward, and we will graciously accept that, whilst owning how it can feel, and be allowed to have those feelings. Because if you've had hate all day and then you get a bit of pity, it just doesn't feel like enough. It feels like crumbs in the gutter. But if we hold our personal lowness to people that can care for it, away from the communal effort publicly that says we're moving forward, then we can move forwards. Whereas if we attack the first step towards empathy, then we're blocking empathy, full stop. We might as well not even be out there campaigning. It is a gradual movement towards empathy. And we have to understand that that's always been true. Any movement of any minority have had to go through a gradual understanding and empathy, acceptance. Words, please, Faye. So we go through pity, we go through, because at first it's entitled hate, remember? Then it's, well, maybe it's not entitled hate, but you're still monsters waiting to happen. Then it's education. Then it's, oh, that's pity, that's pitiful, that's really hard to live with. Oh, then it's sympathy. Gosh, no, that is really hard. That must be so difficult, especially as teenagers. And wow, what am I doing to add to that hate? And then there's addressing, there's an action that, I'm not going to be part of that anymore, I'm going to be part of difference. And then there comes empathy that says, I get what it is, I understand from an empathic position, and I can explain that to you, and then you go, oh yes, that's exactly what it is, and I'm really grateful for your empathy and understanding. 1 second. Hey, yeah, go in my beautiful daughter. I'm just doing my map group early because we're going away. Lost the train of thought. Spectrum towards empathy. So if we want empathy, we've got to be gracious. Oh, darling, before you go out, would you get me a drink of water? Because I'm doing so much speaking, I'm like dry mouth. We have to go through a gradual empathy, gradual set of emotions towards empathy, and we have to be gracious, magnanimous, we have to be accepting, and we have to take our hurt to people that can care, not to the people that can't and are trying to walk towards care. That's, thank you, darling, that's like expecting them to run before they can walk. And that's not fair. It's probably taken you many years to come to terms with self, let alone talk to someone else. So to allow a public that has been bombarded with media hatred and entitled discrimination, we've got to expect a graduation towards empathy. And on the days that we can't do that, and it's just wearing us down, and you are allowed to get worn down because, oh my God, it's tough out there. But that's where the self-governance and autonomy comes from. You have to know thyself. How do I feel today? How much have I got as extra that I can spend on campaigning in the trenches, which is Twitter or online campaigning to create the beacon for safety for the teenagers coming through, realizing this innate condition with nowhere to go, and then realizing, oh wait, there are some places to go. It's not always terrible. But if they go there, and the big people and the ones that are putting out the great stuff wobble in a way that brings down community, and also the forward motion of others understanding our community, then we're not working towards the campaign. We are in a state of self that isn't actively helping the campaign, and we have to own that, notice it, be able to then say, right, I can do other things at this moment. I can go and work on my my writing thing. I can't think of what it's called. My blog, or read, or do some self-care, some meditation, some de-stressing, some soothing. We have to look after ourselves, otherwise how can we ever campaign? And we are here first. This body, this heart, this soul, this brain needs to be working in a system that's all looked after. And if we don't work like that, then we can't work at all. We're just existing and being in robot form. So we have to be really careful, and we want to learn from each other and sharing knowledge and difference. So we really want everyone to be witnessed and invited and respected for what they bring, even if it is a struggle. Because to be brave enough to bring a struggle, that allows it into openness, that says, right, let's see what we can do with this struggle. Because I'm sure that a few of us can come up with some kind of idea, and once we get a little seed, we'll grow it into something that really makes sense, and then we'll start sharing it with other people, that then makes it further sense. So anything that's brought here must be respected as really brave, and thank you very much for coming. Even if it is, I've just learnt my friend is this and I'm freaking out. Come, let's freak out together and get it into a safe space that puts that you don't have to worry about that's not even true, and let's understand friend, because if they've trusted you and all these things, we can go through processes and get it to a point where, oh yeah, it's just a thing they're living with, and they trusted me, and I can be their friend beyond that. God, thanks for helping me through this wobble. So everyone's invited to come along. This group is not for advocating rights for child molestation or acting upon paedophilia or minor attraction, any of the nepophilia, ephebophilia, hebophilia. Children do not want sex until they are nearing adulthood with someone they feel unequal to, with the rightful protection of that gradual awakening in sexual self, and an unconnected to any other person's agenda. So we know that projecting a need, whoever's watching it, the person you know's need, a minor attraction person's need, attraction, their need is for it to be cared for. If they have urge, there's ways in which to look after that, and that doesn't include molestation. It includes urge to look after the libido, which comes in at adolescence. So it's a rite of passage that they look after that in a safe way, and hopefully at some point there will be a campaign for dolls, for sex dolls, for manga, for hentai, shotacon and lolicon, for visual stimulation that depicts nothing but animated things that aren't hurting anyone, and is given as a prescription. So it's not something that everyone can get that's freely available to children. It's just something that can be available. But also there's a lot that's out there that's not sexually graphic at all. It's just an aesthetic, and it's not a sexual arousal. It's an emotional arousal. for childlike being and play and the innocence and emotions. If that's their neuropathic pathway, then that's the way they're aroused. So a lot of them are totally innocent films that children can watch and that can understand that someone else could find this gratifying in a way that they don't. So children only become gradually aware of their sexuality, sensuality, libido when they become adolescents. Their hormone surge kicks in, and that is happening earlier these days, and they don't know whether that's because children are eating more hormones in meats and what have you, or it's in the water, who knows. But that even is their right to a privacy of becoming attached to their body in a sexual way, know how it feels, know how to arouse themselves in a private way, and look after that really intimately and vulnerably to self in a gradual awakening, not for some adult to go in and say, here we go, this is how you do it, but boy, you've got to keep it secret, and you know, we'll both get in trouble. That just adds a whole load of conflict and psychological damage, and then blocks to their own sexual being and flowering of that. So people in this group understand that and don't want that to happen. If a child begins sexualized behavior earlier, they are neither neurologically, psychologically, physically, nor personally ready for the intimacy, responsibility, communication, self-governance, health risks, autonomy of boundaries, or fully self-aware in order to remain safe. So children on so many levels of self, in so many parts of the brain and body and communication, cannot become equal with someone who's in a power imbalance. At this adolescent stage, there may be some play and communication and testing of boundaries and consent with peers, which means safety, which means this isn't a judgment, we're all just, what have you got and what have I got? And it's sort of a rite of passage that adults should not project upon that they are now ready to be in a sexual relationship that someone has an agenda in. These are all equals where none of us really want to do anything totally, we just want to like kind of have a look. And they're in a totally different place, and for an adult to go in and put an agenda upon that is damaging, and our group solemnly agree with that. So actually overloading a child's body with orgasm before it's ready can really affect their neuroscience and their nervous system, and can create a real block to their orgasm later in life. It can create a hyper alert during childhood and during sex later on in life. It's really damaging for them. They're just not ready for it, and our group really understand that, so we're really protective of it. Of course, also the health risks. Can you imagine if we had a society where it was encouraged and we had to open up children's sex health clinics and, you know, put children on the pill, which is a major hormone to go on? It just doesn't bear to think. And then the childhood pregnancies, you know, it's bad enough that children that are at adolescence are getting pregnant because they're ready for playing, not getting pregnant though, but they haven't got a great education in this system. Let alone children that don't understand anything about that, so, and what that could do to their body. Children behaving this way would be showing a manifestation of either grooming, force, coercion, trauma, neglect, unsafety, guilt, belonging, or trying to belong. So that's the friending part of the fight, flight, flop, freeze, friend of the amygdala, and that's your trauma and threat response. Lost my place. belonging, curiosity, education queries, fear, love, kindness, friendship, indoctrination, and would deserve an adult to give them safety and help. So if an adult were to witness these behaviours in a child, especially young children, in adolescence, we would want to be the guardianship of their gradual blossoming within an equal, consenting, communicative, and safe environment where they're talking to their parents and their friends or loved ones and safe people. So they're remaining safe and with their own personal boundaries, which look different for everyone. But children, they aren't ready for this. And if it's been switched on physically by an adult or an older child who is either ready and doesn't understand the education or has been taught it by someone else, is now perpetuating downwards abuse, then those children will be acting it out in lots of different ways, in play, in speak, in inappropriate behaviours with other adults, in wanting it more, because what a lovely feeling and I want that back again. And that is misconstrued by adults as consent and want, when actually it's care that's needed there, because I'm sorry this has been done to you so early in a space where you can't understand it, nor keep safe in it, nor understand what's even been done to you. So we want to give children, there is a group that's doing that, Kids Safe UK, going into schools, into infant schools, where they're giving them, without graphic wording, knowledge of yucky feelings, and which really, it should be maybe yummy feelings as well, in certain places that are given by adults, or inappropriate things, so that they can have an avenue to talk about it. And they've already saved a lot of children from this infancy abuse. So the curiosity should always be met with talking about it in a safe environment that says, you know, we can look on YouTube for educational tools, and we can use all sorts of ways to educate children without violating their bodies and giving them a shame cycle to live with for the rest of their life, and blocks towards their own sexual energy and that ability to have orgasm, share it with other people. We don't have the right to offend that just because we think that's consent, or pro-contacts would think that was consent. And of course, indoctrination through incest and home abuse that can be carried out through generations and become what feels like normal, but everyone does it but no one talks about it type thing, or this is the Lord's work, or whatever. Aliens, you know, lots of people can do gaslighting and real ways of tricking children, and children are vulnerable and malleable, and they will believe you. If you're meant to be their loved one, they'll believe you, and lots of children are indoctrinated to it. So it's a real unfair thing that then they might get on the sex offender register when really they're a victim, a long-term, lifelong victim of something, and now we're going to project offence onto them because they didn't have the education nor the help to understand. So those adults who take a child into sexuality have either been convincing themselves for a very long time that it's okay, or they have been dealing with a psychiatric or human attachment level that needs safeguarding against. So this is saying that adults that go over the line and sexually offend, either online or physically, it starts with a what would be feel sort of very safe. They're just going on for normal porn online, or they're just talking with the little girl or the little boy, and gradually they would convince themselves that, oh well, this younger and younger, and they're still legal, barely legal, and upskirt shots and these, that and the other, and then, oh well, this little girl really loves me and she loves cuddles on me, and she can't feel anything being aroused, and it's not that I get a full erection, so it's absolutely fine. And all these little gradual going over little boundaries that don't feel like anything yet, but actually they all are a gradual agreement to offence. And then when it goes over the line and actual offence occurs, to watch child sex exploitation material, quite often it will begin with the exploitation that starts with older teens that are groomed heavily into sexual behaviour, and they look like they're enjoying it when actually they're in their friend response of their fight or flight, and they don't want to get hurt. And also they've been groomed, and they're also in this conflict of it's a nice feeling, but also this fear and what would be done, and who am I, and what would they say, and what would be done next, and how far we've come. And then further on, they might get to children, younger children, where they're squaring it away because, oh, again, they look like they're enjoying it, and again, they're not seeing the psychological micro movements of the child and how they've been groomed, and the way that it's edited, and their fight or flight responses that kick in. And why would you if you're not trained in empathy? But all of these things happen gradually, and so we want to put a beacon in place that says, come here first. If you're going on that because your body is telling you no, and that's why it's so gradual and incremental until you're doing something. And we don't want you to get there. We want you to notice quickly and come and get some support and camaraderie and some belonging in something that feels well-being, that has skill, that gives you technique and ability. Psychiatric or human conditions, attachment levels, all those sort of things. Anything that is a comorbid condition, also where there is a learning disability, autism, there's something getting in the way to understand, affects, or empathize with other, can also get in the way. So if you're starting to convince yourself that, because some people also have an age dysphoria in their learning difficulty or in themselves, so they feel young and they feel that like these are their peers, so there isn't offence happening. So we want to make safe all of these things, and also make communication about them so people become aware and they're able to navigate them better and create safeguarding and signposting for things that would be a better way to deal. Anyone wishing to derail intention of Project Snowball will be ignored and reported. So anyone here to troll, to be hateful, to pretend that they're going to start doxing people, to just generally not be helpful in what we're trying to do, we are already at the darkest end of what society would deem human beings. And we feel that A, they are human beings, and B, they deserve a space before the loneliest part of town. They deserve a space to be human beings and the people they're born as, not projected and ground down into because, oh well, the further and further towards that end of the spectrum you get, the less and less choice there is, and the more and more indoctrination of pro-contact and all sorts of other things that come in the way of being human being. And these people deserve, and also if you can't think like that, then think like this. Victims and survivors of victimization deserve us to come to terms and make better the well-being of this condition without offense. So we need to come to terms with dolls and manga and all these different things. So these people have rights to live with this without offence, in a condition that has tools and has education and has prescription. There's prescriptions you can have, but it outs you, because if you don't have prostate cancer, then why are you on this drug? But it shouldn't be like that. Of course, we should hand it out all over the place. Just, we should have it in like what they called anonymous little things that you can just get something out of, because of course we want people to be able to live with this, not against it and then into offence. So that's the understand we want. Please take a chance and see if we can make difference together. So we want everyone to join with a loving heart and a walk towards empathy. And I know it takes a minute, but you will get there, because everyone deserves, all children deserve kindness and care in any condition they're living with. For all people not included within this chat group's remit, please do get in touch if you would like to start process support, work together in the future. And thank you for visiting and respecting our boundaries of this chat group. So anyone who's here, come along anyway. And if you want something specific for yourselves, let us know, and we might have some other therapy support groups that we can do for survivors or parents and friends and families of minor attracted, or I know, anxious and depressed. I don't know, whatever you want, you tell me. I'm like kind of running out of ideas. We've got 100 videos now, so, and I've done a lot of content of what has been asked for. So I'm going to review what we've done so far to spark people's interest and see what else they might like. The following is our stance on child protection advocacy and their autonomy for increased safety. So children should have my body, my rules. So every child is different, and some children like hugs, some children like holding hands, children like kissing on the cheek, some children are raised to kiss on the lips, other children will sit on laps, others won't sit on laps. And we want every child to be respected in their body, their rules, on that day, in this moment. And if they don't want to kiss one person in the room, then they don't have to. They can kiss every person and not one, and that is just respected because of whatever. We don't have to make a big deal about it. So we're building consent from the very start. We're telling it, that the children, that your body requires you to make rules by it. And the moment that you're out of nappies, no one really needs to touch your bottom. So unless, you know, you're sore down and we need to take you to the doctors, in which case, you know, it'll be in a doctor setting, and a female doctor will be there, and mummy or daddy will be there, and you know, it won't be for long, and you'll be moved away with probably some cream or whatever. Anyway, I digress. Second statement: I am always allowed to feel safe and comfortable and say no loudly if necessary if I don't. So if you don't feel comfortable as a child in any way, shape or form, and definitely if you don't feel safe, then saying no is a given. And saying no repeatedly until you're shouting it very loudly, and including physical violence, you go for it. It's your body, your rules. And if someone isn't attending to your rules as a minor, then they are offending upon them. So you're allowed to ask them to back up. No one must touch my body or have the right to, and I know a safe person I can talk to if someone ever tries to or does. So we want, because even doctors don't have the right to touch your privacy. And if you don't feel comfortable getting undressed in front of a doctor and showing them something, then there are other ways of doing things, and there are other ways of making you more comfortable. And also, it's in your time and your setting that creates that comfortability. So your comfortability is key, and you're allowed to be treated as precious and in your uniqueness of that comfortability. And if someone ever makes you feel that wasn't respected, then you tell a trusted adult. And if that trusted adult doesn't do something very specific about it and deals with it and communicates about it and lets you know what's happened, then you tell another person, a trusted person, and tell them also that the other person didn't do anything about it. And if they don't, you continue until you find someone that does. And if you can't, you ring the police and you tell them. So private parts are precious. So private parts are your vagina and your bum and your penis and your mouth and your chest Anything that feels private, even your arms could feel private, your hair could feel private, your face could feel private, all this part could feel private. Get off me. You don't like your legs being touched, they feel private. Whatever you want to feel private feels private, and you choose. Private parts are precious, and no one should touch mine, make me touch or see theirs, show me pictures or video of anything I feel uncomfortable seeing, including animals. So someone doing anything like this is trying to groom you, is trying to get you comfortable with things that you're not comfortable with. And you have the right to say, I am not comfortable, I don't want this, stop now. And then you go tell someone about it so that they can help create the boundaries, create the safety, create the communication, because also this person that is trying to groom you, especially if they're a child, might be, I've just made it look like a swimming cap, might be being groomed themselves, might be being perpetrated against themselves. So we could also help save someone else if we talk about these things. I am allowed to understand why my body might need to be touched by a professional for health, development, or well-being. So someone should explain to you quite well and in terms that you can understand, and ask for you whether you understand it, and what procedure it is you're having and why you're having it, and that you have the right to be having it in a comfortable way. So you have the right to that information if it helps you feel comfortable. Then to talk to anyone you want to understand if it is something that you want to happen. So if this education of what this procedure someone wants you to have makes you think, oh, I don't want to have that today, I want to go and talk to someone about it, and I want to go and look on the internet, and I want to ask grandma, and I want to go and see if school knows anything about it, then you have every right to come back another day. No one is allowed to just touch your body without you feeling safe and ready. Secrets are not okay. No one who wants to keep you safe would expect you to keep a secret, ever. Now, some people call surprises secrets. So that might be a special birthday party, or a present that we're all making, or a little surprise for someone. A secret is something that doesn't feel nice, that feels like you're not allowed to tell anyone, that you're not allowed to talk to someone about it, that you would be told off, or something bad would happen to you or the other person, and that you're responsible for that in some way. Secrets are damaging, and anyone asking you to keep a secret is already grooming you. And anyone asking you to keep a secret, you should tell immediately to someone else that you trust that this person is asking me to keep a secret about this, and it doesn't make me feel comfortable, so they can deal with it for you. Okay, and if that means that person isn't allowed to see you again, then so be it. But if that means that person didn't understand your boundaries and now they do and they'll respect them, then all great. These communications should be happening on a daily basis as standard, because everyone's personal safety and comfortability is different. La 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 la. If I am ready to feel special desires in my body or mind, I can explore myself privately or talk with a safe person about it, a safe parent, a counsellor, a doctor, a friend, a grandma, anyone, or online and do some Google searches and put safe or child contact or educational, so that you get something that isn't going to be alarming or in the wrong part of town or overwhelming for you in any way. So you being a sensual person as a child and gradually becoming that as a teen, as your hormones kick in and you become adolescents, is a perfectly wonderful and usual thing to happen, and it should be in safety and privacy and communication and education in a non-embarrassing, judgmental or projecting way, and shouldn't be led by any one person, and it shouldn't include anything that is physical, unless you feel that way about a particular person who is respecting your boundaries and making you feel safe and going at the pace that you feel ready for, and stopping at any time, because even if you're starting something, it's not, any time is not too late to stop. And anyone that's telling you it's too late to stop is lying and disrespecting your boundaries and your consent. So you saying stop and then saying it's too late is violation of consent. So that person doesn't care about your feelings, and it is not too late to stop. It's not an involuntary action that you can't stop. You can pull away at any point. Even if it's going to go everywhere, you can still pull away. I must feel physically and mentally ready and with someone I feel an equal to make a safe relationship, especially an intimate and vulnerable one. And it should be in an open and communicative environment. So any secrecy means that you're already thinking, should I be doing this? So if you're, should I be doing this? Then don't stop, because you're already going over your boundaries, your body boundaries, that's saying, oh, my instinct's saying, I don't think I should be doing this, but I'm overriding them because I'm meant to be a big girl or a big boy or this, that, and the other, or they're saying I'm being silly or rah, 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 frigid, all these different words. That's grooming, that's disrespect of consent, that is someone that doesn't respect you. And we don't want to be vulnerable and intimate with someone on those boundary levels, on that base level. So someone that wants to make good sexual connection with you, which it doesn't mean intercourse, it can mean all sorts of other things, would want to be really discussing it for a long time first and wouldn't be embarrassed about that, so that you can feel safe. If I'm in a relationship with anyone, this does not mean I need to do anything if I do not feel safe, comfortable, knowledgeable, having talked it through with others, and am ready for whatever it is. No applies always, always. So it's always, in all ways. In whatever way you want to put no in the sentence, that's where you put it, and that's where it stands, unless you decide later that you've evolved beyond that no and it's now a yes, but here's the boundary. So your boundaries are movable by you only, and that's through your consent with your own body and your desire and your experience and your safety and play and fantasy with an equal that keeps you safe in that. So you go along in your own way, and it doesn't start with a whole load of fantasy and play and porn and this, that, and the other, because that's just galloping before you've even got born. Like, start with just what feels nice and talking and maybe showing each other what feels nice without digging into all that porno stuff, which really is just not real anyway. Those actors and actresses don't go home and have sex like that because it's not gratifying. They have a totally different sex, and that sex takes a lot of preparation and isn't real. So it's a visualization, it's stimulation, and if you want to use it, great, there's no judgment, but it can create a block. So be careful with it, is what I'm saying. And don't start with it, goodness sake. This shouldn't have any expectation and intention to create something or recreate something, because that's not real and not something your body wants to do, and not out of the gates like, you don't want all that. So anyone that just wants you to do all that doesn't respect you and is just using you as an object. So if you know you're not an object, don't be used as an object. And if they want to use you as an object, they don't deserve you, and they've got some self-work to do. So if I am ready for something, I will have already navigated my way there myself. No one in power over me should ever start showing or explaining things to me that I'm not ready for. Privacy includes boundaries. So my way towards sexual fantasy and discovery of play and kink and philia and all sorts of other things happens in an evolutional, gradual, blossoming way. not I'm into this, this is what I want, and if you don't do it, you're being horrible. Leave. That's not a loving and giving relationship that's starting a journey towards making each other's bodies feel wonderful physically and intimately and vulnerably. And like, if you're young and you're already into just being masochistic, submissive, then please don't go into that community until you're an adult and you are able to verbally communicate your contracting skills, and then keep yourself safe in it, because there are a lot of people hiding in that community, bringing down what their rules are, because they're not BDSM philia, they are narcissists or psychopaths that want to get away with things. So be very, very careful. I can state my boundaries and have them respected, and if I want to move them, I can, and then they will be respected again. And if I want to recede them, I can. I used to be okay with this, now I'm not. If I owe you an explanation because we're in a really big marriage and then I will, but I don't owe you an explanation. It can just be, I don't want to anymore, end of story. So own your own body, your own rules. And then we have a space at the bottom where we say, at the moment, my body rules are, and we like people who are entering into any kind of relationship. And that doesn't have to be sexual. It can be a friendship. I don't like hugs. I don't like being disturbed in the morning. Don't talk to me much between this time and this time because I'm studying. Whatever it is, you know, there's lots of ways in which we can communicate better about how we want ourselves respected, our body respected, and our unique safety and boundary rights. So then I'm going to go on to now my personal statement. I have a little who am I thing, but I don't know whether I've covered everything in here, so I might as well go through it. I am dyslexic in reading and reading to comprehend, so I can be a bit slow on the uptake. So reading and reading to comprehend is about the interface and about taking the knowledge of what is written. So I can't do it very well in written, let alone online and on websites. I find it very difficult to book things, to get places, and get lost frustratingly easily. It's terrible. So, and also I'll get words wrong. I'll mix them up so much that I think, no, this is definitely the right one. And then I'll have convinced myself the wrong one is the right one. So correct me, you know, I'm not an ego. I don't care really about what's coming out of my mouth. I am open to being corrected. It's not like, oh, I'm precious. It's, I'm just trying to say the right thing. And if it comes out wrong, let me know. I can be guided in any way. I am an INFJ, which is the Myers-Briggs personality trait thing, which isn't like the be-all and end-all. It's not like, oh, I believe in it, but it's a quite nice beginning tool to sort of do it, and then you get a thing and you decide how much, you highlight what feels relevant, and then you go on to something like Pinterest and you start a me board and you put your letters in, and then loads will come up and loads of them will be like bang on for you. I am INFJ in sex, INFJ in relationships, INFJ in angry, INFJ and whatever, all these different things, and it can give away a way to share to someone else and let them know you better. So it's a really nice thing. I believe that we can achieve together, so I'll be ignoring trolls and haters. I occasionally involve myself with trolls and haters, but in general, I preserve my energy for those who want it, because I have a lot of ailments, so I've got to preserve my energy. Anyone is welcome to watch respectfully, but this is but one of a few groups that exist for non-offending paedophiles or those who need help to remain from offending. Excuse. So please respect the work we will be doing together and the difference it could make. So we want anyone to be here, but we just want you to respect that this is one of the very few places that these people can come and work on something that they didn't ask for, and we would like it to not be trashed by people that don't understand it. Go away. If you don't understand it, go away, that's fine. Come back another time when you feel like you're ready for another lesson and seeing if you can empathize with this. But if you don't feel like you can, please leave this well enough, because this is a well-being exercise. I'm a qualified counsellor, and I really don't want my efforts sabotaged by people that don't care to understand them, because I want to reduce suicides in teenagers, and I want to increase well-being in a condition that people didn't ask for, and I will want to reduce recidivism in people who have offended, and I want to create a open conversation for men so that they don't have to lash out in this way, and I want people who are struggling with it to not have to go to offending, to come to a beacon of safety with process. La 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 la. I am a qualified and experienced person-centered counsellor, so will be reading my contract. As with all clients at the beginning of new sessions, oops, I've started not doing that because I thought it's like half an hour waste of everyone's session. I think most people were re-seeing, so I've done its special little own therapy bubble, so go and watch it there, and sort of know to keep yourself safe. And I will do my best to keep you all safe too. This allows everyone to keep themselves safe, and transparency is how we do that. So please do watch it if you haven't yet. I really recommend you do. I am qualified in many different techniques and am well read in psychology and neuroscience. This does not make me an expert in anything. I really underline that anything with an exclamation mark. So I am hearing to learn from you two. I'm not minor attracted, so I don't know what it is to live with minor attraction. I am a infantile abuse survivor that has autopedophilia and has had historic pedophilic obsessive compulsive disorder, neither of which are attraction to children. But also I had an indoctrination that I was evil and that I was going to become a paedophile. So I kind of understand the stigma to the point of wanting to kill yourself as well. So I work back from a lot of things, and I'm really interested in it all. And I want survivors to be able to live with their innate conditions, not innate, they're sort of trauma-based conditions that could be comorbid with an innate condition, then becomes this awful thing that they live with. But whereas if they understood it a little bit better, they might live with it easier. So, please let us be forgiving of each person coming and doing their best effort to bring something of genuine and honour. So everyone is allowed to be not their best selves. Everyone is allowed to be not get it right, and then, oh, I didn't get it right, sorry. Learn me. I'm here to learn too. Everyone is nothing. There is no stupid question. There is no stupid answer. There is no stupid gift. Everything is welcome. And I want everyone to start with that in their hearts, because we're starting from a real tough end of the spectrum, and we want to make it as welcoming and as loving as possible, because these people don't get enough love, let alone a lot of love. They get no love, hardly at all. And this in their secrecy and their isolation, and it's an awful thing to bear. I am a member of the British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy, BACP, which you too can access from my credentials or for advice or information on counsellors in your area. So if you don't want to do Skype with me, or come personally if you live near, or do the email thing and feature anonymously on a debrief, then find a place where you can get your own counsellor. And there's a lot of organisations that give it free as well as me. I am insured for counselling, so I have the necessaries. I have a mental health status that I care for, with an ease I have found through person-centered living, and I will let you know if I'm taking a break at any time, or if I have something vital that I can't get out of. Otherwise, our group is an equal priority and value to me, and I will show up. So I've showed up with illness, but I will self-care. So if it's something that I shouldn't show up with, then I won't, and I'll let you know as soon as possible. But also, I have mental health conditions. I have cyclic depression with manic, I can't remember the word they said. They haven't quite called it bipolar yet, but it's that sort of thing. And PTSD, complex PTSD, and I have arthritis. I have a fractured spine, which is gradually doing all sorts of really nasty things down there. I have hypermobility, which causes all sorts of other things. I have a lot of stuff. And so if I need to take care of myself, I will, because my energy for you starts with preserving it when it gets low. So I will do that. But I'm pretty strong and tough. So in general, I'll turn up. And if not, I'll let you know. I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which can be triggered occasionally, causing fainting, fitting, seizures, profuse sweating, vomiting, wetting, vibrations, psychosis, and flashbacks, autoimmune response rashes like chickenpox. It's very rare now because I haven't had one for 18 months, but even when it was happening 3 or 4 times a year, it was still very weird, specific conditions, sets of conditions that would cause it. It's very unlikely this would happen here. If it does, anyone who's watching that knows my number, can they like ring my husband or something? But if it shouldn't do, so don't worry about it. If I feel my PTSD warning signs, I will respond to them. So I do have them. And in fact, I always know when I'm about to have a seizure, and I'll usually warn someone and they'll be like, really? And then I'll do one and freak them out. And usually my last thought is, oh, for God's sake, I haven't got time for this. But brain overrides, you know, what can you do? So I'll generally get on the floor so you won't have to see it, hopefully, if it does happen. But we're in treatment now, so it hasn't happened for 18 months, and I'm really proud of that. If I feel it, I will stop. Please don't take this personally. It is for serious medical reasons and more likely to do with smells than words. It's not you, it's me. Laugh out loud. So don't worry about it. You won't have caused it. It's really specific. It's usually physical. It's somatic things. I have a fractured spine and hypermobility syndrome, which causes pain. So my voice can just sound strange because of this. Please don't take it personally if I look strained or strange too. I'm quite strange just in general, but if I look strained, it's because I'm in pain, and I'm in pain today, so I'm like a little bit tired with it, but I'm here. I am currently receiving and training and reading about EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprogramming for my continued symptoms and recovery for ancestral infantile sexual abuse. There will be other survivors here too, so please be kind to everyone who turns up. Human being first. Thank you. So this is about being kind with your words and not being triggering. Yay! Thank you. Oh, I was just needing this.
Yeah.
Chocolate milkshake. Are you nearly done?
Got one more to do.
Okay, let me know.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love chocolate milkshake so much. It's the best meal ever. Yes, be kind. Be kind with your language. Don't be too graphic and too triggering. Warn people. Say content warning if you want to do something a little bit more intense. But just try and know that lots of people are trying to turn up to care for this, and everyone has sensitivities. But also, you need to vocalize them. If you have a particular thing that you find difficult, then state it, and hopefully people respect that. I am an author who has written about person-centered living and the need for human rights, acceptance, belonging, support, care, love, and achievement for those suffering with minor attraction. Being born with or trauma developing a paraphilia is intense, especially if you can't even talk about it to anyone. Being isolated makes it grow and become an obsessive compulsive thought chain. Having dual conditions like autism, Asperger's, learning difficulties, trauma neurology, disability, psychological conditions, can make it become a desperate thing to live with. I believe in you as human beings. One cannot choose what we are born with or given. We are only responsible for our actions. So the book is How I Became a Person by Faye Brown, a counselor's therapeutic process laid bare. It basically gives a conversational walk through how to make a relationship with self and create an environment and then bring it into all your roles. In every part of your life, your sex life, your marriage, your children, your learning, your work, everywhere, self-care. Then the second half is a case study of my life, shows you a storytelling of how you become a malformed person through trauma or whatever, then counselling and how that looks, and then how you apply it to life. And still have to live with certain things because, you know, can't fix anything. You just got to get better at living with. So buy it. The proceeds go to the charity Projectsnowball, which helps schools, survivors, and minor attraction NOMAPs, all sorts of things. So do it. Why not? There is this other thing, this section in my book. There's a chapter, and at the end I talk specifically what was the beginnings of this Projectsnowball charity. I would rewrite it now, probably in the next edition, because I've used loads of terminology wrong. Sorry, I had to start somewhere, so don't judge me, don't judge me. But it was the beginnings, and you know, maybe a little bit pitying, but I'm becoming empathic. It's, you know, you've got to understand where someone comes from, either from their own trauma, which is self-destroying, or from an upbringing and indoctrination of the monster condition, or a societal projection and stigma and hate that builds up in you because of how the media presents it, that they're all just given as teenagers and adults, so they're all just working back from something too, probably the same thing you work back from. And so you had to do a lot of work to become someone that loved yourself. So they've got to do a lot of work to become someone that loves you too. And not through their fault. They were just indoctrinized too. So if anyone can like empathize, our group can't we? Can we be the first group that empathizes with the walk towards empathy? Yeah. Then at the end of it, there's a whole load of like all my certificates, if you want to look through them, and different things that you can look into. And then my bibliography, which is all in the statement of intent, so you can read through and see what books that I have read that you might find interesting. Chocolate milk, chocolate milk. In a curly straw. So I'm going to quickly go through what websites are really good to go and look at. Primary prevention. The Prevention Project with Candice. Prostasia Foundation with Jeremy and the team. Asta.com, which is a great website for support and, you know, different signpostings. stopso.com or .org, I can't remember. There's a great deal on Twitter. James Cantor, Dr. James Cantor, Dr. Sky Stephen, Dr. Ian McPhail, loads of different researchers that are doing very interesting research that shows the stigma that's there and gives facts towards it, so that we can get towards empathy of looking after this condition and reducing victimization and suicides. So I'm going to do a quick debrief of what we've done in all the last sessions. My straw got stuck. It's all the talking, I'm so thirsty. So the let's have a look. First map session, here we are. The first map session was contracting the needs of the group, which I still need some feedback on. You still haven't given me that. So what needs are in the group? What person-centered counselling is, statement of intent. I did the horse saddle rider theory, which is the adult, parent, child, which there is a therapy bubble on, which is the Russian dolls therapy bubble. Configurations of self, which is a canvas. You can see on the therapy bubbles as well. There was the environment of self drawing, which is another one. We did the sleep techniques. We did anxiety techniques. We did the Pinterest boards for communication. We did the Myers-Briggs, the stress and the amygdala. We did Maslow's triangle, which is your hierarchy of needs and how to look after yourself in the different levels of who you are. Oh, what's going on? I think I went off. Sorry. Hi, Twitter. My computer has just done something weird, so we're not showing anymore. Okay, I'm going to take, oh, wait, that, oh, we're back. Hello, we're back. Sorry, guys, I almost took that as a sign, but I'll take it as a sign that you came back just in time. Excuse me, that we did. And so there's a Maslow's triangle therapy bubble. There was Jaharo's window, which is your windows towards self and your understanding of self. There's a therapy bubble on that. And we addressed the book. Then we did how, I can't remember whether it was, oh, we did this one. Stigma, discrimination, suicide baiting, suicidality, depression, anxiety, OCD, and human rights. So that was the second minor attraction group, therapy group. And that went through all sorts of things. It was a really intense session. So go check it out. And there's lots of stuff in there that helps you with all the ways to deal with those things. Then we had a session on how to deal, and then we had all these different topics with minor attraction and your religion, your relationship with God, self-worth, your identity, self-care, morals and morale, and being around minors and the safety and boundaries. Again, loads of good stuff for that. Go check it out. Then we had, I think it was this one. Then we had fantasy and rules around staying safe in expression. So we worked on how to keep safe with looking after urge without perpetration, satisfying romantic relationships with adults. So if you aren't exclusively minor attractive, we went through ways to build up relationships and work with comorbid conditions that might be blocking that. The celibate life, so the other end, the exclusively minor attracted, and how we can come to terms with the celibate life and the grieving and loss of never having a relationship and the understanding of that, and maybe visiting the second prize, because I'm doing this courageous work that says I'm not going to visit this, so what could I have instead? And we did a whole load of ways in which to live better with minor attraction without offense. Then we did one on affirmative consent, and we walked all the way through what affirmative consent looks like. But of course, we can't address that to minors, especially minors in a power imbalance. So anyone who's an underling of anything, so anyone who's above anyone, and anyone's older than anyone, beyond 5 years older than them, otherwise they're not peers. Anyone with peers who has comorbid conditions might have some kind of affirmative consenting that could be helpful, but even that requires specific consent rules like texting, like non-verbal things. So and then we also did prevention without stigma. So we went through how NOMAPs can help the campaign. Then we had a few others which you might as well go and have a look at. This is number 12. They've all been really interesting. They're, well, she says, blowing smoke up her own arse. I've been told. I've been responding to the content that people have sent me. I'm at the end of content, so really I really need people to tell me what they would like me to do next. Otherwise, I'm going to put you through going through chapters of my book and bringing that to relation, because it's all about person-centered living and being in your well-being life. So tell me if that's something, you know, or if you want something else. So I'm going to go and wash off my hair dye, which is probably like gone super crazy color. Yeah, perfect. Blues, pinks, purples, and drink my milkshake. So much love, and I'll see you at the next Mind Attraction or any old person's group therapy support. Get in touch, guys. Bye. So I'll end on here first and then here.